The point. It was the intentions of the touch. And for the lesson, I am the worship of the slime. Please take a moment down and start reaching that side for worship. After this side. It's nothing special. What this group you see today? You're delighted you're here. Sure, sit down. You may notice it. You tried. There you are, too. I think we're lucky to you 3 weeks there. Set that in. Well, that might like give hours behind. Or like exactly minute. At any time you get it. I'm open to bite up. It's sellers. So let's. I think, is it? Or somebody gets up in the stairs. Sorry. Somebody's sad. Idiot. Saved. Doesn't matter. Suddenly makes you. It doesn't make that change. We acknowledge too that the church we have obviously stole away that box. It didn't be us adding this. To continue to this day, you're suffering from the injustices, lost territorial sovereignty, the ongoing effects, colonization, genocide, death, whenever that is to stay, resolve ourselves, work on by freedom, dignities, all conditions, and other rather than unite ourselves together with one another and the earth may or just and hope for. Love it. See that. This morning, you got your 2 rights up. The saddest. So sit tight, be present, occurs shortly, warning. Oh my God.
The flaming chalice is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalism, brought forth as our denominations merge, as a symbol that we had created in times of fascism to protect and mark safe houses. As we kindle this flame, may it spark in each of us connections and commitment to this loving tradition and to each other. Fire of our faith, fire of our future.
Join together now, saying you give us to the African nation and put it in your water of singers.
This is our great emphasis.
The truth about it's tough. tea. Wow. And if I could join me in the gathering words of responsive reading, which also included in your author study. Now is the time of the outburst. Against us, our things are lives. Eating else is bad. Singly, that unity, our lives were separated. From that state of our daily activities, we come to this place of quiet confession. Where series, pause, and hears me, like rivers to the sea, we come to this spiritual home. Make it with a stop. As you see me in this eye. And now I invite you to rise and embody your spirit, the same in number 361. Edgar rejoice, I think that means.
Good morning. Three left walk with that setting. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. And as Kennedy sets up, I'd like to invite any children, you, adults, who'd like to come up and join me this morning. Yeah. Small. Get us. Celebrate to be all of you today. And I'm so excited that our two congregations get to worship here today together. Hopefully, we will be together more. So, but sometimes when we're with new people, it's kind of hard for us to kind of merge together, right? Sometimes we're like, this is us at Marlboro, and that's it. People that's that. And this is all of us at FPC. And we'll toss in a little bit of visitors. And we'll mix this all together. Okay, now even though we're all together, can you tell which ones are white
Yeah.
and which ones are blue
Yeah.
and which ones are pink?
Yeah.
So I dumped it out. We can still all be separate again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can separate everything. But what do you want to do? Let's have Margot and Henson. FPC. And a little bit of visitors. All come together. Fix it, Kennedy. Yeah. So that we all came together as one. And now, you think it's easy to separate the colors? No, it's hard. We want to be united. FPC, Margot and Hudson, and all of our visitors.
More visitors.
Robin said more visitors.
I think you should make Robert shake.
All the visitors.
All the visitors, Robin says.
Like things greater. Yes.
And Robin gets to shake it up.
Oh, great.
That's cool.
Fair enough.
Oh, I smell visitors always.
What does this make him say?
They still accept.
Yeah, give Robin a little bit of encouragement.
Throw the next.
Thank you, Robin. That's what we want tonight. More visitors. So hopefully, they'll still be us in the coming weeks, months, and actually today. Thank you.
You're gonna find what I diagnosis and here. What happens to you when you enter into life?
Coming together in this hour of worship, stand at the forming edge of our lives, sharing a spiritual practice of being present in this world, one another. If you'd like to share an experience, joy, and transition, invite them to come forward this time, light candle and place them in stand. Or to take a stone and gently slip it in the water. We also invite the lay minister of the First Parish and read any email joys and sorrows they received today.
For these joys and these sorrows and all those that have been spoken and unspoken, we give thanks and we carry them in our hearts. In one final candle to the cost of war, the consequences of war that cause so many people suffering. We light the cost of war.
No matter where you go, no matter where you've been, you'll never walk alone. I feel you deep within. I'm sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to slow, dear one, don't hurry. I'll go just like you need to go. There is no need to worry. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love.
Today's service is all about memories that are never truly lost. Memories that make up our common heritage, our common self-understanding. Some of these memories are from earlier times, but some are still fresh, still raw, still carrying a sense of urgency. Transgender Day of Remembrance will be observed this coming Thursday, November 20th, in this country and around the world. This is a time to affirm and hold close the transgender people who have lost their lives in the past year simply for being who they are. Time to address them by their chosen names and bring them into our current awareness. The actual numbers are staggering. 354 deaths worldwide, over 30 in the United States alone. I encourage all of us to make our way to Stowe Acton Church this coming Thursday at 6 p.m. for an informal observance of this day of remembrance, to light a candle, to read a name, to pray for an end of violence, and to envision the kind of world where every person has the opportunity to live openly their truth. For now, let's hear these words of meditation from the Reverend Dr. Kimmy Lloyd Reich. Today we remember our sacred kin. Each one was beloved, each one mattered. But memory alone is no longer enough. Our candles do more than flicker in sorrow. They are beacons that light a path for the living to find sanctuary. They lead us toward a world where every trans, non-binary, intersex, gender-beautiful person can safely live in their truth. To honor the dead is not just to say names, but to commit to protect the living. To mourn is to move, to build, to act, to center love in a way that keeps people alive. May we commit to love the living well enough that we keep fighting, no matter how long it takes, until there are no more names to be mourned, no more lives taken by violence too soon. history is that we are connected, even when we feel apart. Let us rejoice in the common life that makes the many one. Let's raise our voices now in song for hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
The word you got, it's down into the Unitarian and Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams once described the two things that are most important in life to him. And you know, we ministers often say that these are the two reasons that people come to church. Intimacy and ultimacy. Intimacy meaning connection with one another. Community. Ultimacy meaning connection with the divine, or whatever you hold to be most sacred, most ultimate in the universe. This has a parallel in what I think are the two main tracks that I talk about when I talk about doing history in our new class, which we call FPC During. The two tracks I trace using history down are our history of justice, of widening our circles of understanding, and of belonging, the inclusion, wider and wider, and our history of theology, opening the circles on what you can believe and still consider yourself to be a Unitarian, Universalist, and Unitarian Universalist, and opening those circles wider and wider. The circles of justice, widening over time, are connected to our circles of welcome, and thus intimacy. And the circles of theology widening are about ultimacy. As I look over the history of the First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton and the Unitarian Church of Marlborough and Hinkson, our two churches which are exploring coming together, I see in UCMH so much that is about justice from your very core of who you are trying to become a church, and thus about intimacy of community and connection. Particularly, there's your history of abolition in your work in that area. In FPC's history, which I aim to talk about today, there's a little trace in our recorded history of our past injustice over in the centuries. It's not that it's not there, because clearly it must have been to have brought us to who we are today. But it's just not written in our history. It's not how we tell our story. But what I do see very clearly in our history is the story of Unitarianism and Universalism and Unitarian Universalism, widens their theologies over the centuries, and how we were connected to that widening. The church, though we call the First Parish Church of Stowe, has its beginnings steeped in the history of the beginning of this nation and colonization of this land. As the pilgrims, the settlers, or colonizers moved into new areas and claimed new spaces for the European rights, it's deeply inextricably mixed with the theft of land from Native Americans, sometimes being misunderstood at best, but usually duplicitous or falsely authorized land treaties, and sometimes, of course, in more and the driving out of the native inhabitants forcefully and violently. Stowe is mixed up with all of that, with Matthew Boone supposedly trading a single knife for the land of the Nipmuc people, and also mixed up in what we call King Philip's War with his family. And the church in Stowe is founded along with the town, which starts with the town incorporated in 1683. In our early years, our theology and understanding was such that our church building had two aisles, one for men and one for women. Women on the east side, interesting, close. And we brought in two unsuccessful gooseberries of the Reverend Samuel Pills. Now, Samuel Paris is the minister who was at the heart of the Salem witch trials after his daughter and his niece started acting strangely and blamed it on his enslaved woman, Tituba, who they said was a witch. And she confessed to witchcraft after he literally beat it out of her. From that rough beginning, however, and at least we can say, neither time Samuel Paris came to Stowe was he successful there. His business for but from that rough beginning, we had a church that expands its theology and opens its circles of understanding wider and wider. It's in the early 1800s that theology and Christianity start to open dramatically. Universalism is spreading. And there's a controversy going on in universalism between the founding minister, John Murray, and his restorationist universalism, which says, yes, everybody's saved, but not so much right away. That point, and the ultra-universalism of Joseo, who says God is so loving and so powerful that everyone is saved right away. Because you're all children of God, each and every one of you. In 1814, Hosea Ballou comes to Acton, but he reaches up a storm, and the spirit of universalism takes hold of Acton, and people start meeting, and they form a church 2 years later. This spreading wildfire of universalism is happening at the same time as the Unitarian controversy is active as well. In 1805, Henry Ware, who is a Unitarian, is appointed to an endowed chair at Harvard, and this starts the Unitarian controversy. By 1818, William Ellery Channing is preaching his groundbreaking survey, Unitarian of Christianity, at the ordination of Jared Sparks in Baltimore, and it's put into print. The print spreads all over. These standing churches in irregular from the Puritan tradition, which have been liberalizing into Congregationalist churches over time, are swept up to this controversy, with the Trinitarians refusing to exchange pulpits with the Unitarians, the church is splitting in votes. Over in Acton, those Universalists meet Sarah Lyle in the Unitarian Church. At about the same time, we see more lauding with back over in Stowe, the same debate is taking place. These standing room churches like Stowe were the town churches at the time before separation of church and state, where the Universalists had to fight to not pay taxes to the town Unitarians and congregations. In the Unitarian splitting, the Dunning decision was a court decision which decided that the town controlled the church, not the smaller group of church members. So instead, we had Reverend John Langdon Sibley settled in 1830, and he was Unitarian. The town was kind of split about that. And they were also divided over the fact that he was also, can't believe it, also a Universalist. And a Universalist church had founded in Stowe in 1830. And so, with this split over this theology, he resigned in 1831. But then we get disestablishmentarian. It's establishmentism. And the separation of church and state. Suddenly, the town no longer controls the church, and the church members. So in 1833, we get Massachusetts as the last state in the Union to split, no longer had town supporting the church. And what happens in Stowe in 1833? They start purchasing their buildings to Universalists. And they only are rich to be like half the Sundays, found after Maester. Then they invite back that Reverend Sibley, who returns to our ministry and serves at Stowe again before going on to some institution like Harvard. Thereafter, Stowe is Unitarian. And the Trinitarians, or evangelicals as they were known, they head over to Assabet Village, where I sent Spain. Over the decades and the centuries, the Universalists will close and chop up a few years later with two United churches. They would share a minister, then one saw, then the other ravine. While the Unitarians in Stowe, they would move and move again, have a building run down, build a new one. So both faiths continue, widening their theological experience, widening in their theological acceptance, along with the movements of both faiths in their widening circles. With the Stowe Unitarians connected to the Stowe Universalists, and the acting Universalists connected to the acting Unitarians, it's no surprise that both were theologically ready when the merger of Unitarian Universalism happened over 100 years later. Stowe was so ready that one of its ministers would become one of the early United presidents. And so as the denominations merged in 1961, the two churches started discussing merger right away at pretty much, finally to merge themselves in 1969. Our history does say, however, the motion passed, quote, though barely receiving the required vote, required two-thirds vote, 33 affirmative, 11 negative, and 3 abstaining. I say this just as a warning because, they weren't unanimous either with calling me to be the minister. This church does not vote unanimously. So I know the first people are going to consider that should be getting I'm not positive to the two churches vote, that is. I think it's the Unitarian vote. But it shows that not people who do things unanimously. But we do have a history of choosing a path forward with others. From there, over the decades that followed, we became a church that went from Heinrich to the witch trial minister to a church that welcomes witches. We went from a church where women and men sit separately to a church that welcomes and affirms trans and non-binary members. We went from a church that had a minister who had a slave to a church with a Black Lives Matter banner. We went from a church that was part of the colonizing of this land to a church that is working to restore a relationship with Native Americans. In 1921, Universalist Louis Fisher was often asked, what do Universalists stand for? What do Universalists believe? What do they stand for? In the response he wrote in his book, Which Way? Well, the only true answer to get to this question is that we do not stand at all. We move.
Yeah.
For our Unitarians in style, they moved. And our Universalists in Acton, they moved. And our unions of Stowe and Acton, this continues to be true. We do not stand still. We move. And we will keep moving theologically and in justice and welcoming into the future. May it be so.
You said maybe it was that way. It's actually that.
I'm going to the round.
So good.
So that was it. That way?
No, stop. Get out this week. Wait, 1 minute.
It's out there. So you go up the stairs and you turn the corner, you turn the other line, I'm gone. Not the truth. So hit the single. I'm just lucky that all my life, I've pretty much lived in places where the water is rushes. I'm sorry, but Spring Rivers in Chicago, Salt Lake City, in Boston, the water is leasing swag. Never been less but that neck and over. We can't God.
So that it's true.
Our offering today, I want to make clear to the FPCers here, we split our plate in Stowe and Athens. I was led between two organizations. Our organization for the month is PK Coalition. We split it down in church. Here at UCMH, they, once a month or so, give away the entire plate. And so they have chosen our place and organization to give the entire place today, too. And so if you'd like to contribute to either churches operators, you must do that in other counties or by mail or in other ways. Today, our entire plate is going to be tasted. Now, the little story on that, as the Reverend Bruce was riding here today to this church with the rainbow above. He had this optical illusion happen on the highway where all the highway lines turn pink. And that is a sign. That is a sign that our generosity to this movement is spreading down highways on the world. That we are spreading our love for the trans communities of America all down the highways of this land. We are hoping to bring people to safety with the resources to places like Massachusetts, to places like UCMH, to places like FPC through our work. So please give generously. The Pink Catering Coalition is an organization that really, right now, needs your support. And their work is so important to our own faith community, as well as to all the trans people of this nation. Thank you.
Citizen will play, please. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Got this. Yes, don't tell this. But she don't. But See, you're set. Yes, next, let's say, is done.
This church stands on the unceded land of the Nipmuc people. In the mid-1600s, there was a traveling living to this region converted to Christianity and known as the Praying Indians, and dwelling in the village of Amakamesa plantation. The prayer did not help them much as they were evicted or killed by English settlers during the conflict known as the King Philip's War. Our story as a congregation begins on the safe lands, an isolated settlement named Warrington, established by a king's friend in 1660s. A rough meeting house was built, the thatched roof on the current site of the Waka building in Marlborough. This meeting house burned down during King Philip's War, but was soon rebuilt.
This first village, neither
Replaced the town and the parish were the same in most days, was grounded in Orthodox Puritan teachings of original sin and the Trinity and the primacy of faith over reason. And these teachings held sway for a long, long time. By the early 1800s, new ideas, both Unitarian and Universalist, were moving through American society, and they had a strong influence in this region. The congregation split in 1805, and a new parish, the East Parish, was created. The Orthodox believers of the evangelicals went over to the East Parish, while the Unitarians stayed with their original meeting house, the West Parish. These two churches existed side by side, just a few blocks apart for over 150 years. The original East Parish continues as First Church of Marlborough, United Church of Christ. This was a contentious split. The town minister at the time, Asa Cantor, was a diplomatic fellow, and he was able to minister to both congregations for several years after they separated. Each Sunday morning, he would trudge between the two churches, leading a service at one church and then at the other. This meant that he had to give a shorter sermon, which is not such a bad idea. Rex Collins inspired the planting of a Universalist church in Marlborough as well. First Universalist Society was organized in the 1820s, and they dedicated their first building in 1829. They led hymnals to our congregation when we were first meeting in this area, public halls. It must have been a friendly, collaborative relationship. In fact, we know there was a lot of cross-fertilization in terms of theologies. Universalist thinking ministers at the Unitarian Church, vice versa. I believe the first Universalists continued on until the 1960s. I'm not sure. I don't think they took part in the UU consolidation of 61. But after they disbanded, their building was put to other uses before it was burned down in 1973. Now, turning attention to this place we call Epsom. Incorporated in 1660, the Assabet Valley as a whole was not much settled until before 1800. In 1794, a fellow named Joel Cranston moved here and started a tavern and a general store. 5 years later, a man named Silas Felton joined them. And they served as a magnet for more people and more businesses around, some of them using water power from the Assabet River to run mills. Over the years, this place has gone by many names: Cow Commons, Mills, new city, Feltonville. It finally became a town in 1866 when Marlborough divided itself into Marlborough and Hudson. As people were building their homes and industries here, they didn't ignore the needs of the spirit, and they didn't ignore the spirit of the times. Many were moved by the liberating message of Theodore Parker and the other great abolitionists. Charles Brigham, who was a leading citizen here, was deeply committed to that cause. It's known that he played a role in the Underground Railroad in this town. And in later years, he went away to Kansas for 2 months during the time of deepest conflict between the slave state and the free state factions. He was also a friend of Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's not hard to see that the impulse towards liberal religion and social justice are both part of our DNA. Over the years, we've provided a platform for the likes of Emerson, Wendell Phillips, William Lloyd Garrison, Frederick Douglass, Mary Livermore, Edward Everett Hale, and Mark Twain, who expressed their ideas here. In 1846, Charles Brigham was gathering a group of progressive-minded Christians to create what they called the Union Society. Over the next 14 years, they'd meet in local halls, bringing the borrowed hymnals to the reed organ music. Brigham met a minister named George Stacy, a devout abolitionist himself, who had been dismissed from his pulpit in West Boylston for expressing his abolitionist views. Although Stacy was now living in Milford, where he ran a print shop, he agreed to come and preach at Feltonville once a month for $3, which was just the cost of his horse team. This he did for 8 years. Then it was increased to 2 Sundays a month for $5. In other words, Stacy preached here for 14 years for gas mileage. He gave his last sermon at the dedication of this building in 1861. This building predates the town of Hudson. Civic meetings were held down in Union Hall downstairs, including the one to incorporate Hudson in 1866. And then the town leaders held their meetings downstairs until the new town hall was completed in 1872 next door. The church land cost $2,300 to buy, and this building cost $4,500 to build. A local farmer named Stephen Rice donated $300 for the clock, stipulating that the building must be named after Amos Lawrence, a leading abolitionist, namesake of Lawrence, Kansas. So officially, this building is still known as the Lawrence Church. Our first organ was a big improvement over the reed organs we carried around. In 1865, that cost all of $1,050 to build, plus $35.07 to install. The blower had to be pumped by hand. In 1892, the organ was replaced by the one we have now, and that cost $3,000 plus $150 to install. Lower the water power is not much of an improvement. Like a few years later, an electric version we have now. Money for this building was raised by subscription at $25 a share. A lot of money in those days. You could also buy a pew for yourself and your family. What could possibly go wrong? The trouble was, as few people were joining the church, they couldn't own pews or hold chairs because they'd all been sold already. This meant they couldn't vote on matters of church properties. That fitting is definitely limited to the shareholders. also known as the proprietors, while everybody else issue was finally resolved in 1879 with a change in the bylaws that established a single-class membership. The proprietors turned over their shares to the church so that the property could be held in trust for everyone. Also in the 1870s, it was a period of financial stress. The audit showed that the church has been running in the red for quite some time. In 1875, Minister Hilary Byron signed from this pulpit saying he did not leave the church in such condition that he couldn't provide for his family without a guarantee of a steady salary. But for several years, the church struggled to restore its financial health. This brings to mind our recent struggle to come to terms with the financial situation and to do the right thing. It takes it only to do the right thing sooner or later. Later is better than ever. It still takes several major repair projects. The most significant was the renovation of 1901 with architectural improvements, electric lighting, extensive remodeling. The church member Louis D. Astley oversaw this project, which came in $28 underway.
It's so self-referential.
As was an entrepreneur, factory owner, congressman. One of just a number of people who were dedicated to the well-being of Hudson and his congregation. Earlier I mentioned Charles Brigham, who not only gathered the Unity Society, he also ran the Sunday school for 40 years.
It's not.
Beth Ellen Brennan was another key member, and she ran the Ladies' Circle. In its prime, this group was a fundraising engine for the congregation, bringing people together for all kinds of social events. And they also served a pastoral role in the town, making clothes for some of the poor residents. A story is told of a fire in Hudson in 1894. Beth Ellen Brown was seen climbing into the back window of the Twins building using a ladder. Apparently, she didn't have the church key, and she wanted to get into the kitchen to get the stove going, to make some soup and some coffee for the firefighters. Beth Ellen Brown was also an advocate for women's rights. On an election day, she went with several church men to the polls and demanded to vote in the town election. The clerk asked her name, checked the voting list, and said, "I'm sorry, your name is not on the list." Beth Ellen Brown replied, "Then the list is in error," and the women proceeded to vote. This was, of course, 15 years before women voted at the national levels in 1920. Looking back, we can see the arc of UCMH spanning more than 3 centuries, from its planting in a remote frontier settlement, becoming an established church, and then splitting off from the established church. And much later now, a time of birth, joining together. The 1961 consolidation between Unitarians and Universalists was recapitulated in each of the Hudson and Marlborough, Stowe, and Acton churches. The Stowe and Acton churches merged in 1969. They provided an important example of this congregation. The merger of our Marlborough and Hudson churches started in 1969 out of economic necessity and was finally completed in 1972. This combined congregation called the Reverend I. Greg Carter as their minister, and then they alternated their Sunday services between one church building and the other. Eventually, there was a big debate over which church building to keep. The Marlborough Church was considered maybe better looking. Hudson Church was chosen because it had their religious education wing. The
the congregation's new name, Unitarian Church of Wilder and Hudson, with Wilder at first. So now, we're considering a new merger between ourselves and the First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton. You may have heard some extra long acronyms, but you may have mentioned that unfortunately that we will find something a little shorter, fully evocative to express combined lasting spirit. So may it be.
I invite us now to rise in body and spirit to sing hymn number 145, as tranquil streams that we converge. Join together and say the words as we extinguish the callous light. We have gathered in love, worshipped in hope, and lifted our hearts in peace. We go now to share these blessings with the world. Oh, send forth us, Spirit, forth to do well our work of our lives, our living.
May these our lives touch healingly, lovingly those in need of love and healing.
May we bear witness to our faith, even when to do so seems too great a risk.
Oh, send forth us, Spirit, yet leave us tap roots here to sustain us.
And to twine with roots of these, our lovely, loving others, whose spirits have dwelled a while together.